Donald Trump's now using the Situation Room in the White House in order to browbeat Republican women to get them not to demand the disclosure of the Epstein Files. Is that the proper use of the Situation Room? To try to extort and pressurize people like Lauren Boebert, like Nancy Mace, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who have all said that they are going to support the Epstein survivors and they're going to sign and stand by their signature on the 218 necessary for the discharge petition to get the Epstein files. Now the government's reopened, now that Adelita Grijalva, Representative Grijalva, is sworn in and supporting the Epstein survivors and signing on and being the 218th vote, Donald Trump is panicking. Let's use the Situation Room and put the person in a chair surrounded by Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, Kash Patel, and others to try to arm twist them to take their name off of the signature. How disgusting, how depraved. And it's at the exact same moment that the Oversight Committee, which is bipartisan, has released new emails, one in particular that links Donald Trump to the child sex abuse ring. Of course, he doesn't want the files to come out. Earlier reporting from this week is that when congressional MAGA Republicans, including the three I just mentioned, were briefed by the Department of Justice, they were told that the files are worse for Trump than first expected. And if this email that the Oversight Committee just got from the estate of Epstein by subpoena is any indication, Donald Trump, now you know why Donald Trump's working overtime to put people in the hot seat and maybe threatening them that they can't leave in order to support taking their name off the discharge petition, to put it to a House vote, to finally once and for all get the hundreds of thousands of pages of Epstein files, which will lay to rest any doubt as to who was involved and why Donald Trump has been covering it up. I'm Michael Popok. You're here on Thursday Morning Legal AF. It's a fast-moving story. I just did a hot take earlier yesterday about the three emails that must have freaked out Donald Trump, that they're already starting to drip, leak out, including particularly one in which Epstein and Maxwell speculate why Donald Trump hasn't been investigated since he spent, quote, hours in Epstein's house with a girl victim, And another email that suggests that Ghislaine Maxwell was well known to Donald Trump as somebody who was a predator using as hunting grounds Mar-a-Lago for quote unquote girls. So of course he's bringing Lauren Boebert from Colorado into the Situation Room. He has a situation on his hands. I'm Michael Popok. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button, and let's break this down. Now, Carolyn Levitt, the propaganda queen, the press secretary, when caught with the question about why Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and others were in the Situation Room with Laura Boebert and about the browbeating and the arm twisting, she said, that shows transparency, doesn't it? No, it shows you're trying to make it the opposite of transparent by beating up Laura Boebert, not to disclose the files that will harm Donald Trump. Let's play the clip of Carolyn Levitt.
Why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. It is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media, and it's why I'm being asked questions about Epstein instead of the government reopening because of Republicans and President Trump.
But given your interest in transparency, Caroline, why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That's a defining factor of transparency. Having discussions with members of Congress about various issues, and I'm not going to detail conversations that took place in the Situation Room in the press briefing room. Reagan.
Now, it's remarkable, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace of South Carolina, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, and Boebert, all of whom have had some sort of sexual abuse in their own histories, have come out so strongly and look like they're rock solid. I mean, Nancy Mace was interviewed recently about whether she's going to take her name off the petition, even if Donald Trump gets around to making phone calls to her. And she says no. Here's a clip of Nancy Mace on that issue.
I wasn't prepared for the meeting. I should have been better prepared. But it hit very close to home for me yesterday. And the least we can do is disclose information. These women have been fighting for justice for 30 years, and they still don't have any. And there are people here who don't want to give them that justice. I said today, too, that why aren't we prosecuting Prince Andrew for crimes committed on U.S. soil? You can't tell me with over 1,000 victims that there's only one accomplice who's serving prison time not for raping or sex trafficking, but for other crimes and misdemeanors. So I believe them. Their stories are compelling. They're terrible. The thing that really hit me yesterday is when the third victim spoke, she relayed some of the same emotions I'm currently feeling, and it was too difficult for me to watch that. It was very painful, and I kept asking myself, in 30 years from now, am I going to be that girl at the table who didn't get justice? And no one wants to feel that way, and I think we should be fighting like hell for women and kids and men too who've been wronged in this sort of way. We should be fighting like hell for them, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the last person to abandon a survivor.
And Lauren Boebert, the same thing. But look, there's new reporting. A number of bad stories have come out in the last 48 hours about Donald Trump and Epstein. First among them, the email, which we posted in Legal AF Substack for you to read. I mean, when you've got 14 years ago and 5 years before Donald Trump ran for office, an exchange between Epstein and Maxwell about whether why they haven't talked to Donald Trump since he spent hours with girls inside of Epstein's apartment, which totally undermines, by the way, Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony that she gave under oath, under an immunity deal to Todd Blanche a couple of months ago. No, I don't remember him ever being in the house. He's barely friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Let's play the clip of her lying to Todd Blanche.
Photographs of Mr. Epstein and President Trump together.
Yes.
And there's photographs of, I think you're in some of the photographs as well. Those all appear to be social settings.
Yes. That's my memory. If there were social settings, I don't know. Epstein's, if he had, whatever the nature of the president's friendship, if you will, or however you want to define that with Epstein, I was never witness. I think they were friendly, like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends, or I certainly never witnessed the president in any of, I don't recall it.
Now, what's this all about? Now that Representative Adelita Grijalva has finally been sworn in, having been denied her seat for over a month, almost 2 months. She's now going to represent 800,000 people and women and Mexican Americans and her district, the 7th in Arizona. Now that she's sworn in, she's also said she is going to sign and be the 218th signature on the discharge petition to get the bill to the House floor so we know who's for child sex trafficking and who's against it with a House vote. But if they lose any of the 218, then they've lost the ability to have that discharge petition work. So you see the group is trying to keep the votes together while Donald Trump's trying to peel a few away. Lord knows what they're promising it. Hey, Lauren Boebert, like to be an ambassador? Like to be a judge? Like to, what's your heart's desire? I don't know. Hopefully it is to protect the disadvantaged and sex abuse victims. How about that? And this whole Orwellian propaganda North Korea moment when Carolyn Levitt looks the American people in the eye and says to the press, I'm not going to tell you about what happens in the Situation Room, but isn't that transparency? No, Carolyn, it's not transparency. Not with what is going on in the Situation Room that you won't comment. So in the same breath, you are both transparent and opaque. Not while what's going on there is obviously the attempts to shut down the disclosure of the Trump files, the Epstein files, because they're going to be terrible for Trump. I mean, that's the reporting that just came out. David Schuster just did a whole report in the last couple of days that the Epstein files, that the Department of Justice has briefed people like Boebert, Mace, and and Marjorie Taylor Greene and told them it's worse for Trump than they think. But the chips need to fall where they're going to fall to support survivors. That's what we do on Legal AF. We support sexual abuse survivors and those who were victimized by child sex trafficking. Plain and simple. There is no two sides. There is no politics. There's no blue and red. There's only right and wrong. There's only depraved and immoral and ethical and just. That's it. So we're going to continue to put pressure on Donald Trump now that the government is reopened. But I just wanted to point out, did he work for you in honest service while the government was shut to try to reopen the government? No. He was at Mar-a-Lago golfing. Oh, he's only now rushed back to New York to get both booed at the Washington Commanders football game and to try to browbeat through his Department of Justice and FBI members of Congress. Is that right? Is that correct? Or is that heartless? I'll let you be the judge. I'm glad you're here. We got a lot on tap for you today, a lot of amazing commentary and stories and analysis only on Legal AF here on Thursday. Hit the free subscribe button. Come over to Legal AF Substack as well and become a member and a paid member there. That keeps us on the air. Give you an example. Adam Klasfeld, All Rise News, took a train to be first in line during today's James Comey, Letitia James hearing in front of Judge Curry about whether Lindsay Halligan is going to get bounced as a U.S. attorney. He's in the room. He's going to do live reporting with me. He's going to do StreamYard reporting with me and the rest. That is made possible by your being such fervent supporters, helping us cross the 1 million subscriber barrier and subscribing to Legal AF Substack and becoming a paid member. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.